Bringing you Pottsville Apache sports all season long. Fleet Tire, Point S Tire and Auto Service, Premier Facilities Group, E&F Roofing, The Granite Shop, Smooth Running, Heating and Air, and Tyler Riley of River Valley Realty. Also, Metcalf Trucking and Tyson Foods. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying this broadcast. Welcome into the Arkansas Sports Network's coverage of Pottsville Apache football for their 25-26 season. I'm Brad Caldwell. You probably don't know me as well. I say that. I'm on basketball a lot now, and so we do a lot of that. But these two guys here, I think that you guys know these two a lot, Stephen Glenn and Jim Huffman, Pastor Jim Huffman. I'd love to call you the pigskin preacher, but that's already been taken.
Right? Steve calls me Padre, and that actually come from a longtime Pottsville Apache fan, Jerry Aiken. So
okay.
I'll take Padre.
Okay, the Padre.
Yeah.
The Padre, the football Padre.
Yeah.
Even.
There you go.
There we go. I love it. And we just want to talk a little bit about their experience here with Pottsville. I mean, these two guys are really, I feel like you guys are endeared with the people of Pottsville. They want to hear what Steve and Jim have to say about the Apaches. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this year's team. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit about just the past and what it's been like working together now for so long. And let me just say off the top, Justin is not here.
Right.
And Justin is a huge part of this production. We were just talking that it's our 6th year here with Pottsville, and that has just changed. It really has changed my life in a lot of ways, because I remember the day that I walked in to the office with Coach Duggar and Coach Johnson, and I said, "Hey, we can bring you a nice looking live stream." And that was COVID. The world was different then, and things, were just kind of haywire. And I said, "Hey, we can bring you a good live stream." And here we are 6 years later, and it's not without the support of sponsors that we'll get you guys as well as time goes on. So anyway, it's our 6th year, Justin's 6th year here with Pottsville. He's actually the only one of all of us that has been with the live stream that we do for 6 years, because you guys came in year 2. Justin was here with me in year 1, and of course we go out and we do ASN now. And so anyway, but it's still a great matchup. It's been great for us, and we appreciate the Pottsville School District for allowing us to come in and produce this live stream that we do. And it's just turned into something that I never thought it would.
So we go back, you were telling me 07?
07.
I think Jim and I working together. We started doing radio broadcasts. I can remember the gentleman who was from the Morrilton radio station.
Rich Mullers.
Rich Mullers. He was also running the radio station I was at in Russellville. And I was just doing part-time weekend work for him, though. I had already transitioned over to full-time working at the Pottsville School District. And Rich came to me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in doing Pottsville games?" He said, "Someone's come to me and it looks like it'd be profitable. Would you mind doing it?" No, it'd be fun. Because I thought I had kind of gotten away from it, you know. And so I went out and I did the game. And I think the first couple I did by myself.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a fan of doing that. Football is really hard to do by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not extremely knowledgeable about the sport of football. I didn't know the players. So one afternoon, the superintendent of Pottsville Schools, Larry Duggar, came to me, and Mr. Duggar said, "Hey, if I could get you somebody to work with you, would you mind?" I said, "No, it'd be great. Football's better off with 2 people." And Mr. Duggar said, "Well, one of the guys who's on the chain gang might make a really good. He's got some radio background. He might be really good for the job." And it's kind of taken off from there.
Well, and the thing about Rich Mullers at the radio station at that time in Russellville, I had gone to Rich because my parents wanted to listen to Jonathan's football game because physically they were not able to come. So I approached Mr. Duggar and I said, "Would it be possible for us to get the football games broadcast?" And he said, "Well, I don't know. If you talk to the radio station." So I went and I talked to Rich Mullers, who I knew from Morrilton, who worked for KVOM for a long time. And I went to Rich, and Rich said, "Well, the Pottsville market is so small.
Mm-hmm.
let us do a pre-sale and we'll get back with you. In other words, it's not going to happen.
Sure.
So anyway, the next day I get a call from Rich. He said, do you think I can go by and talk to Mr. Duggar? We did a pre-sale and we sold out that afternoon.
Wow.
And so next thing I know, I'm on the chain gang. Mr. Duggar comes to me and says, "Hey, we started broadcasting, and we appreciate all your efforts there. But do you know Stephen McCure?" And I said, "No, I do not." And so he introduced us. I went up there, but I will tell you, I want the whole world to know this man right here is the golden voice of the Pottsville Apaches. He has been for a long time. I am like that sidekick that just comes along and
Wow.
rumbles and stumbles and blunders and all kinds of funny stuff. But this guy has the golden voice.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about that. In 22, we were still doing an Atkins, Dover, and Pottsville, and I am in Utah. I was out watching the Razorbacks play BYU, and so that Friday night I was there in the Airbnb, and I've got a cousin who is pretty adept in football. We really weren't talking about it. I just had it on, and she heard you, and she goes, "Well, that guy sounds really professional."
Well, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Don't sell yourself short, Jim, because as I mentioned when I was talking about how this got together, I didn't know the players, which you had him as Pee Wee coach.
Mhm.
You knew the people in the community, and I had just started working at the school district, so I didn't know that many people. And that's the plus Jim brings. Plus, I never played the game of football. I never played high school football. The coaches wanted me to. In all candor, my mom wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
She was afraid of me getting deathly ill, not hurt, but I had trouble with my lungs,
Yeah.
and she was afraid of me getting deathly ill. So I never played the game. So we needed somebody who actually had been on the field.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you have background at Morrilton
Yeah.
as a devil dog there.
All heart, no talent. But I can tell you that I did get to play for the Morrilton Devil Dog high school football team for 3 years, led it 3 years, and made it to that state championship game. We won't talk about that, but we were state runner up in 1977. But yes, a lot of man football teaches you so much
It does.
as a young man. So many life lessons. About teamwork, teach you a lot about yourself. You get knocked down, you get back up, um, teach you discipline. There's so many life lessons that football has taught
Yeah.
us, and it continues to teach these young men and
Hmm.
all the players today. And I'm just glad to still kind of be connected to it. A lot of people don't know this, but I do have a degree in radio and TV broadcast management,
Okay.
and I worked at KVOM for a little while, and then thought I was going to go to work for PBS after I graduated, but God had other
Yeah.
plans. Pam, my wife and I, we got married and kind of set us on the course. So when this opportunity rolled around, it was like the Lord above opened the door for me to kind of get back to a first love.
Yeah.
And of course, that's when He brought Steve into our lives, and so we've been doing it for 18 years, partner.
Well, and the same with me as far as God opening up a lot of doors to get this going. I had thought, I'd spent a lot of years in radio, and I won't go into that, but I thought I was going to be the next big thing as far as a radio DJ, or thought I was going to take Jack Buck's place with the Cardinals.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of that was the future of my life. And when I went back to college at Tech, and then started working in school districts doing computers, I thought, okay, well that part of my life is done. And
Yeah.
then this whole situation opened up, and it was just a blessing to kind of get back into the broadcast booth. Now, one of the things I can't I feel like we can't forget here is a gentleman by the name of Thomas Rickman. The Tomahawk, we called him. He came to me when we were doing the radio, and he said, "Hey, can we live stream these games?"
Yeah.
Why not? And it was Rickman that was real excited about it. But all we were able to do was we'd put a webcam out there, point it out the window, and get a wide angle view of the
Yeah.
field. And then we did the radio broadcast over that. We hosted it on, well, for one year we hosted it on our own network, and
Mhm.
then another year we hosted it on I can't even remember the name of the service now, Yahoo or somebody like that. And it was a couple of years after that, not very long, that you guys came along and you knew what you were doing with the streaming side of it. And let's face it, I love radio. Radio has always was
Yeah.
good to me. I still enjoy playing with it, but it's not the future of
Right.
broadcast
Right.
sports.
Well, let me stop you there about knowing what we're doing. That'll we'll get to the very first three games that we did with Pottsville were a complete disaster. Complete and utter disaster. We went to EPC the first broadcast in 2020. And the first broadcast that we put out, we were dependent upon a Verizon hotspot that Coach Duggar gave us. And of course, we didn't know any better. The only thing that I had done was in studio. Well, in studio and out of studio are completely different when it comes to live streaming. So we did that first game, and we were able to get a little bit out there. What we didn't know is the quality that we were putting out there was not great because of the equipment that we bought. The first equipment that I ever bought, I think I might have spent $250 altogether with it. Of course, again, thinking that I know that what we're doing. Well, obviously we didn't. So the quality wasn't very good at first, and then we went to Green Forest. And Green Forest, we didn't realize that you couldn't get anything out of there at all. And boy, we had this nice setup, and we had all our monitors out there, and we had changed our USB to HDMI, and we thought, oh, it looks great, it's going to be great, and we tried to put that out there, and it was unwatchable. And I think it was game three. And of course, we throughout the weeks, both those weeks, we would do test after test after test after test, trying to figure out what the deal was. And finally, we figured out, believe it or not, that if we took our phones and made them a hotspot, they worked better than an actual hotspot does. And then we got to Clarksville, and Clarksville's box had all the internet that we ever needed. And we put out a great stream, and it's kind of just been a takeoff from there. And so, boy, I'll tell you what, after that Green Forest game, I thought, we thought we knew what we were doing coming into this and figured out real quick that we didn't know what we were doing as far as out of studio versus in studio broadcasting. And when we got to Clarksville and we finally got it out there, it was just so nice. And it was such a breath of fresh air. And I do think between the Green Forest and Clarksville game was a Charleston game. And what happened in the Charleston game was they told us we had internet there. So we go there and they're shooting the internet over to the press box from the school. Well, you know as well as I do that that's not very reliable.
Not a
I
lot of
mean,
throughput.
you can have like a 100 upload speed, and then you can have nothing, and it was just in and out. And we had people basically saying we're never watching this again and all this stuff. And Mr. Duggar, you need to do something about this. Finally, we were able to lower the bit rate low enough to be able to get a broadcast out. Of course, that game, I believe, came down to the very end, like the last play of the ball
The
game.
Charleston game is like a
Yeah,
14-7 game.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it came down to the very last play of the ball game. We were able to get it out, and then pretty much, like I said, once we got to Clarksville, it was fine, and it's been good ever since. And we've kind of figured things out a little bit, and all that. So it's been good. But you two, one of the reasons we're here is just because you guys are such a staple to this. Been here 18 years doing this. You, Pastor Huffman, the Padre, we're in this beautiful church facility that you have here. And I mean, just in the time that I've been around here, you've seen such a growth, not only in the number of people that come, but just the facility itself. And I know that you mean a lot to the people of Pottsville.
Well, thank you, Brad. I appreciate those kind words, but I always remind Steve knows this. The only thing good to me is Jesus Christ. I always say that my legal name's Jimmy. I dropped the MY, it left JIM, and God gave me an epiphany one day, and I looked, okay, JIM, Jesus in me.
Yeah.
So it's all about Him, but getting to do something that I love, that number one that I'm called to do as a pastor of a church and to be a part in the community and get outside these four walls. God never intended for any church to be a salt warehouse.
Yeah.
You got to get out. But part of my getting out, and one thing that people will say, preacher, what do you love to do? And I'll say, well, for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours on Friday night in the fall is a special time
Yeah.
because, we get a load up, either take a road trip or go down to John Needham Stadium, and I get to spend 2.5 hours with this guy, Justin, the guys in the press box. And we got a saying, what happens in the press box stays in the press box. But we have a great time, good,
Yes.
clean fun, and we get to enjoy this game of football that means so much to these young men. And not just the young man. I'm talking about the band members. I'm talking about the Black and Gold Brigade. I'm talking about the cheerleaders. I'm
Yes.
talking about everybody that's involved. That's what makes football football. This morning I was listening to one of the sports radios and they were talking about the band playing the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Man, they would strike up the horse when I played
Yes.
back in the day. And believe it or not, we did have face masks back in my day. It don't look like it, right now, but back in the day they would strike up the horse. And today when I hear it, I just want to hit somebody. I
Yeah.
mean, it
Yeah.
just, but it takes a community. It takes the student body, and Friday nights are special. Pottsville is building a tradition. We're hoping one day to be able to. We were talking about earlier about the first, our first season together was a playoff season. The first time the Apaches ever went to the playoffs, and we played at Harding Academy. We take some injuries in that first half. We go into the locker room. Steve, was it 21-6?
I think so. Yeah.
21-6 lead, but I mean, we were beat up, and we came out, and they came back, and they won the game. I can't remember the score, but I'll never forget that experience, that playoff experience, and that's what these young men they're striving for each and every year to just to be able to make the playoffs and then take it from there. So
And I'll never forget that. I have a couple of memories of that year as well, but specifically the game Jim is talking about. Our last game of the year, back then, sometimes on the final Friday of the season, some teams would play on Friday, some teams would play on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of allowed you to go scout the opponents. I think it's kind of a gentleman's agreement
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing that you do that. And we noticed that Harding Academy had played on Thursday. So we kind of assumed there'd be someone in our press box from Harding Academy to scout us.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some teams there from other playoffs. There were quite a few coaches elsewhere, but there was nobody there from Harding Academy. And I thought, well, I guess they don't know who we are, huh?
Right. Yeah.
And the first two, we took I think we took the opening kick, and we drove it right down their throat. We ran the dead T then, and I mean it was 5 yards left, 5 yards right, 6 yards right up the middle, and I could see their coaching staff going, "Who are these guys?"
Yeah.
And like Jim said, we had some injury. Who was our fullback that year? Do you recall?
Jacob Irwin.
Jacob Irwin, because they couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
They had no answer for him, but I think he did get injured,
Mhm.
as I recall. But that was a very good memory, that ball game. Of course, Harding Academy uses Harding University's football field,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a beautiful facility. And I had been blessed to have been the voice of Arkansas Tech for several years, and I had been there before. But I think that's the first time you'd been in a college press box.
First time. Yep.
And the man who was the sports information director for Harding University was very nice to us. But he bent over backwards to get us things. In fact, he put
Yeah.
us on the visitors press box side,
Mhm.
and we had the whole thing to ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. But he came in and said, if you need anything, let me know. If you need stats, he said, if you're thirsty, we've got drinks in the fridge. If you're hungry, there's food in there. And that was something special. I really enjoyed that.
Well, that brings us to what are some of your favorite moments being the Apache broadcast team?
Cake.
Okay. Yeah. I still have that picture somewhere.
Yeah, I've got it too, Brad. I'll have to send it to you. But Steve and I, it was a road trip, and we go to Heber Springs.
I say it was Heber. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heber Springs, and they have their standalone press box. And we get there, and there's this huge sheet cake that says, "Welcome to Heber Springs, Pottsville Apache broadcast team." And I look at Steve. I said, "Do we eat this, or what do we do with this?" And so finally, somebody came over and said, "Hey, did y'all find your cake? We just want to do something nice for y'all, since you're the visiting team." And so we had cake in the press box.
Yeah.
So that was one of the great memories. And there was several others. There were some memories that were not too good.
Well, yeah, but I think maybe my favorite memory of anything Pottsville football wise was one year. Coach Rust told me kind of off the record to say, "Hey, we have a chance to be pretty good this year." And coaches almost never tell you that.
Yeah.
So I was kind of fired up. I was kind of fired up about the team, and we had started off. I think we had won 2 or maybe 3, and we lost a game, and then we went to Mina. Okay.
Mm.
And Mina's rival was who we had played the week before. I don't remember who it is now, but we had played them the week before. As we're coming into the press box, with our Apache gear on, every one of the stands here, Mina fans says, "Hey, great to have you. Thanks for coming down. What do you think of this other team? How will we match up with them?" And they didn't care about us.
Right.
We were an afterthought.
Yeah.
And we went up there and we started running that dead tee. And the fans would watch the game and we'd pick up 4 or 5 yards and their crowd would be cheering because the guy made a good stop. Yeah, but it was 5 yards down the field.
Right.
And we basically used that ground and pound ball control offense to stay with him. In fact, we were behind, I think, by 3 or 4. I believe it was our last possession of the game. We moved the ball all the way up the field. And again, running game, moved it all the way down the field, got down to their 2-yard line, maybe in the 3, but I think it was the 2. Timeout, 4th down. Game obviously on the line. We had a running back at that time by the name of Quillen Porter. Was that Quillen's last name?
Yep, number 3.
Yeah, Quillen Porter. And I can remember we took a ad break before going into that. And Jim and I were talking. We said, well, no, they're going to run Quillen. We knew they were going to run Quillen.
Right.
The crowd knew they were going to run Quillen. Mina's defense knew they were going to run Quillen. And we just ran right straight over him with Quillen, just pushed him back into the end zone. He may have even gone in untouched.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? We may not be bad
Yeah.
because everybody in that field knew what was coming and they still couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Think about the third quarter of that game. Do you remember the third quarter? We got the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you talking about clock management. We got the ball in the third quarter. They never touched it.
Yeah, they never got their
Oh,
hands
my
on it.
goodness,
They
wow.
never touched the ball in the third quarter. We kept the ball the entire third quarter and ran it out and scored. And yeah,
Yeah, you were talking. There are some tougher memories from years gone by. Michael Perry was a special player.
Mhm.
He really was something, both football and basketball. And in fact, I can remember. I think it kind of got out that he wanted to play basketball, although I think he did go to Tech and play football for a
Yeah.
little bit. Could have done either.
Mhm.
Could have done either one. He'd have been 4 or 5 inches taller. He could have played D1 ball,
Mhm.
both basketball or football. And we were good. We were really good. And a lot of times, if things broke down, it was Michael Perry. And we had won, I think, our first playoff game, and maybe we could have even won a second.
This
And-
was third round at
Yeah.
Star City.
That's right. Yeah. And was it Star City where he was going to cut and slipped?
Mhm.
We were. It was a close game. Boy, back and forth. Both teams getting after it. And Pottsville has the ball with a chance to take the lead and would have been late fourth quarter. And Perry takes it and jukes a rush. And he's rolling outside. And there is one player between him and a go-ahead touchdown. And Perry makes a move. The guy bites on the move. Perry goes to shift back inside. Nothing but green grass to the end zone. And he slipped. Slipped and his feet went right out from under him.
I was at that game. I
Yeah.
was. My wife is from Star City, and I was at that ball game.
You remember that play?
I do
Yeah.
remember that play.
Yep, that and I don't know because it seems like the team we would have had next was the team that ended up winning
Mm-hmm.
before it was it. It was one of the teams from Southern Arkansas that was really good that year.
Yeah.
Not
And-
in Nashville.
Yeah, it might have been Nashville. Come to think of it, it might have been Nashville. But we had some playoff success. I remember those games too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fun there. But even some of the more fun memories are stuff that happened off the field. I mean, we went to Pulaski Academy. Went,
PA.
went to PA. Those folks were super nice to us. Were you at that game?
Yeah, first time we
Yep.
ever had Chick-fil-A in the press
Mhm.
box. Yeah,
And
preachers remember
That's
chicken
it.
in the press
That's
box.
right.
Yeah.
and those folks were just so nice to us, bent over backwards at whatever you need. Can we get you? Hey, we've got this microphone set up that's on the official. First time I'd ever seen that at a high
Yeah.
school game. And the game starts, and we're thinking, we got a really good chance to win, and this is going to be a really good, really great football game. And I think that PA team ended up having like 5 or 6 guys that played major college football.
Yeah.
Some guy that played at Arkansas at tight end and now in the NFL. He was pretty good. And I remember on one of our early possessions, I'm speaking of Quillen again, we had got Quillen the ball, and he gets outside, gets a lane, gets a lane, and he's headed down the field, and it's open field. And I see a guy in Pulaski Academy's defense take off after him, runs him down from behind, no angle, Nothing.
Yeah.
Just chases him down. It was their middle
Oh
linebacker.
wow.
Yeah.
It wasn't even one of the speed guys.
Yeah, pure speed though.
And I thought, whoa, this is going to be a long
Right.
day. But to those people credit, they were very gracious after the game and their win. Several of them came up to us and complimented us on how hard we played and how tough it was for their guys because our guys fought so hard and
Yeah.
played them down to the end. So, we made a good impression.
Of course, that's a different animal, especially then with Kevin Kelly there
Yeah.
and the onside kicks and all of that stuff and the no punting and
Mhm.
they just put a pressure on you that
Yeah.
you don't see often, especially when you don't play them in a conference game, especially that's a tough one. If I'm not mistaken, and of course I haven't followed Pottsville as closely as some, but I believe that was one of the better teams that Pottsville had. In fact,
I think it may have been our best team.
may
Yeah.
have went in there undefeated
Mhm.
going into that ball game. But at that time, Pulaski Academy was just different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pulaski Academy could have won the 7A championship that year, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, and that was the year, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the first year they had dropped down to 4A.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they had dropped down.
And they had dropped down to 4A, and we're like, what in the world is PA down in 4A? We're not going to stand a chance.
Right.
Schools like that, but and they were good at recruiting. Of course they're able to do it. I think after the game, I think. Somebody wanted to talk to Michael Perry. If I'm not
Right.
They did.
mistaken.
Well, Michael Perry, and I think they might
Yeah.
want to talk to Austin McNeely, I think maybe too.
Well, I don't know if it's Austin or maybe Jeremy Ward.
That might have been Jeremy because
yeah,
Jeremy
Yeah.
went on to sign with the University of Arkansas. He was
Yeah.
the major college recruit we had,
Yes.
and they had like 5 or 6.
Right.
And not to mention the guys that might have got on to play D2
Yeah.
football.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sure they had plenty.
I can tell you over the years something special to me personally, and I know it's special to Steve too, is those kind of players, all the players that we have. I still call them by their football number,
Hmm.
and I do it out of respect. We had a young man come visit church the other day, Zach England. He wore number 2, and I said, "Hey, number 2, it's good to see you." And he said, "You still remember?" I said, "I'll never forget."
Yeah.
And but years later, we'll be at the press box. We'll get a knock at the press box, and it'll be one of the former players. We were in Prairie Grove, and Jeremy Ward shows up, knocks at the press box, comes up there to see us. I think Will Bodroska was
Yeah.
helping us out back then too, which Will was another great football player. He played the same year the years my son played, and they were
Hmm.
good friends. But yeah, Jeremy Ward shows up at Prairie Grove to visit us. That's when he was a police officer. After he graduated, he was a police officer for the Fayetteville Police Department. But it means a lot. Mark Scott, um, Caleb Moore, Jacob Moore, those guys still make a visit to the press box every now
Yeah.
and then. So, and the list is long and lengthy. And now Michael Perry, Coach Perry, we
Mhm.
get to see him, and he's up on the press box some, running the clock and doing different things. So it's just really full circle to see those guys.
Right. And because you guys have been around so long, you're seeing these guys that they have children
Oh yeah.
and their children are now graduating and
Yeah,
coming through, which I know is a special thing for you as well.
yeah, it
Well,
is.
and what I'm seeing now is some of the children of players are actually teaching in the school district where I work
Uh-huh.
now.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if everyone knows that I work for my real job is with the Pottsville School District as
Yeah.
a computer tech, and we've got a couple of people that had played that we did their games, and in one case their child is actually coming up through the system now, and
Right.
it's kind of fun to see that. But I guess somebody got older along the way. I don't know. Hey, where was it we went? One of my favorite stories here, since we're just kind of rolling here, was it Prairie Grove that we went and they had these amazing barbecue nachos?
The barbecue nachos. It was Prairie Grove.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
that
went
was
there,
good.
and those people were very nice to us also.
Yeah.
And we got to halftime. Seems like it was a game they were ahead, but it was real close. Was it playoff or otherwise?
No, that was a playoff
Yeah, it
game.
was a playoff game again. It was one of those back and forth kind of games. They had the upper hand going to halftime, and they said, "Well, hey, what do you guys want to eat?"
Yeah.
And we didn't know. Because
Sure.
we thought I don't remember where we stopped on the way down. And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what." He said, "We make some barbecue nachos that are really good." Oh yeah, I'm game for that. So he has one of the people helping at press box bring back 3 orders of barbecue nachos, and one person could not carry all three.
Yeah, yeah.
And
It was
these
good.
these things were
Yeah.
huge and they were
Yeah.
delicious. And we ended up losing the game, but we were so full from the barbecue nachos.
It softened the blow a little bit,
Yep,
right?
Yeah.
yep, sure did.
But speaking of some of the best food, though, while we're talking about food, there's nothing like a Pottsville Apache cheeseburger
Oh yeah,
at home.
yeah, their
Yeah.
cheeseburgers are amazing.
You know, we started that tradition a long ago, but we always would eat a Pottsville Apache Booster Club burger. Tracy Taylor back in the day cooked some of the best burgers, but they got different people now that will do it, but they're still pretty good today.
Yeah. And of course, I know along the way as well, you've had people. I know Chris Turek was one of them that would bring you food
Oh
Well,
before
my
the
goodness.
game.
that's what I was gonna mention
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good Cajun food from
r-
Mr. Turek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And that, that makes a difference.
Yeah.
It definitely lets people or lets you guys know that, you're special to these
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
because and every Friday night, win or lose, people are interested to see what the Apaches are going to do,
Mhm.
right? They want to know, and I've found that high school fandom is much like, or maybe even more to certain extents, with the Razorbacks, where when you win, you feel great, and when you lose, you feel terrible. I'll tell you a little story that I ran into, not from Pottsville, but from Star City. My wife's grandmother, Star City born, Star City bred, and she got to a point where she was losing her mind toward the end of her life there, and I just kind of mess with her, tease with her a little bit, and I said, Gigi, I said, if the Razorbacks played the Bulldogs, I said, who would you cheer for? And she looked at me and she goes, Bulldogs, just like that. And so there's a certain
Yeah,
pull
right.
that your high school team has, and of course, the tradition here is not quite as long as many of the schools in state,
Right.
but you can see that being built year after year.
Yeah. And you talk about the beginning. I believe it was 2002 when the football program started, and the Pee Wee program started. Tony Moore, Ken Golden, Sam McDonald, Marty McDaniel.
Coach
There,
Collins.
well, I'm talking about just the Pee Wee program, but
Oh, okay, I got you. I got you. Okay.
Coach Collins comes along, and it's kind of a neat story when they were laying the sod at John Needham Stadium. Our worship pastor here, who is a music teacher at the school now, Chris Camberling, Chris helped lay the sod
Oh wow,
at John Needham Stadium. And so he still talks about that, how hot it was. But the band people went out and helped lay the sod on the football field,
yeah,
but it all started back then. Coach Collins came in, 24 gap slam, I believe was the play. I
Yep.
still know that. It's kind of like Doing Davis when I played at Morrilton, old right 35 dive. But Coach Collins kind of laid the foundation for us in 2007. That's when Coach Russ came in. That's when we made our first playoff run that year, running the dead tee offense. And so that's kind of where it all started. And now here we are,
yeah.
in 2025. Looking forward to this season.
Right, and Pottsville is a playoff team almost every year now, and I think people might take that for granted a little
Mhm.
bit. Of course, I think a lot of people want to see more success, but that's really any team that you follow. I mean, the Razorbacks, a prime example of that. People want to see more success. They want them to win a championship. They want them to win it all. And I was talking to Coach Greg Kaufman yesterday, and he was telling me a little bit about the optimism that he felt for this year's team. And, conference is a little bit different with Ozark now getting a new coach. I think Clinton has got one of their better
Well,
teams.
they were really good last year, and
Yeah.
I think everybody's back.
Yeah, and then you got Dardanelle, which is going to be a monster by itself. I mean, Hootens has them as the number one team
Number one.
in
Yeah.
in the state right now, and so they're going to be a handful. But at the same time, you also know that this Apache team is going to be there. They're going to compete, and they're going to be right there at the end, trying to vie for a playoff spot.
Yeah.
I think.
That's the reason you buckle them up on
Yeah,
Friday night,
yeah, yeah.
because you got a chance.
Yeah, the game isn't won or lost in the Hooten magazine. You still
That's right.
That's
you
right.
you still got to move that ball down their throat, like it or not. And I really think there's a possibility this year. Sometimes the 4-4A gets kind of a second billing
Yeah.
when the state playoffs get here.
Hmm.
I think this year it's very possible you could see 5 teams, or will they take 5 teams out of the
Yes.
4A this year? Any one of them could win a first round game.
Yeah.
There are some really good teams here that could easily win other conferences. So,
Well, last year y'all at Malvern,
Malvern,
I mean, you
yeah,
should have won.
absolutely. Miller Mahan goes down. And if Miller Mahan probably did not go down, the chances are, not to say that Court Johnson didn't do a great job coming in and
Right.
filling the gap, because he did. That young man gave it his all. But when you lose your starting quarterback and you have some other injuries as well, but that game, I think we had that game.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, food wise,
yeah.
Right.
we love playing. For the record, we
Right.
love playing playoff
Yes.
football at Malvern,
Yes.
because you talk about a spread in
Oh
the
my
press
goodness.
box.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
unbelievable.
it looks like the Golden Corral up there. I
Our whole
mean,
situation is good up
oh
there.
yeah,
We've
it
we've done a
is.
few games up there ourselves. But yeah, you were right there last year with a pot. I mean, I think Malvern finished 11-2 on the year.
Yeah,
So I mean, that would have been a nice win there. Um, Coming back, again, you've got people coming back. Court Johnson's one that we've mentioned, and as you said, Miller Mahan going down. It's very hard for a quarterback to come in and just carry on what was happening.
yeah,
I mean, the guy's a starting quarterback for a reason. But there's something about the flow and the momentum of the game and everything that comes in. It's very hard for a backup quarterback to come in and really just carry the
yeah,
torch. But now that Johnson's gotten a chance to,
yeah,
he's the guy coming
yeah,
in. You would think that he would have the opportunity to be that next type of guy that would carry on the tradition of good quarterbacks here.
yeah. And he's going to do a great job. I had some fun last year on the radio, or not on the radio, but on the on the broadcast. I made a comment because Court had broke a long run. And Steve said, "Where did he get that speed from?" I said, "Well, it's obviously he got it from his mother, and not Coach Johnson." And Coach Johnson sees me at halftime or whatever, and he looks at me and said, "I don't like you no more."
Well, I know I'm sure that Coach Johnson was a good athlete in his
Hey,
own right.
he was a great athlete for
Yeah.
the Clinton Yellow Jackets, if I'm
Okay.
not
Yeah.
mistaken. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, of course, I didn't know. I went to school with his mother at Tech, and so I saw her play basketball at Tech. So Court's got good genes there when
yes.
it comes
On both sides,
to
Coach. On
athlete.
both sides, all fairness. Yeah,
Uh, but it's something that we're all looking forward to. I mean, that's really why we're here today, just talking about just the good memories, but also just looking forward to Friday nights, and we really hope that everybody else is too. Because really it takes that home field advantage is a big deal.
mhm,
You know what I mean? When the Ozarks come in, and that's a game that, hey, maybe you're in second place and you need to win that game to stay in that top spot or second spot or whatever. That home field advantage really helps.
well, it does. And when you walk in John Needham Stadium, you see the Apache helmet that comes up that the players are going to
Yeah.
run through. You see the cheerleaders out there. You hear the band in the background. You smell those booster burgers and
Hmm.
everything coming out of the concession stand. You see people that are piling in the parking lot, having to park, a pretty good distance away, because I mean, there's going to be a big crowd there. You get into the press box. You on our way into the press box, you start seeing these people, and everybody's excited about. There's something electric in the air
Yeah.
at John Needham Stadium, and Pottsville football is pretty special, and I think there's a great tradition that's being built here. Steve and I would like to stick around to win that state championship.
That's kind of my goal.
Yeah,
I have said this to Jim, so this is not any big
Yeah.
revelation, but I have done a couple of football games from War Memorial Stadium. When I was doing the Arkansas Tech games, they played Pine Bluff there
Yeah.
once. I've done a game at Razorback Stadium when I was the voice of the Cyclones. Fayetteville played at Razorback Stadium, so I've done that. I really would like for Jim to be able to do a game from War Memorial.
that'd be good.
Yeah, it would be good. And it would be great for Pottsville,
Yeah,
for them to be able to do that. Of course, it takes a special team. It
yeah,
really does. It takes and I think that 3A and 4A are the harder ones to win because there is that extra round of
yeah.
playoffs, And usually it's deeper in the conferences. If you look at 7A and 6A, you can just about point out who's going to win.
Right.
Top two or three. Bryant's right, 7A. You can throw your Conways and your Bentonville and your Fayetteville, and pretty much at that point you can cut the line off. 6A Greenwood, and then everybody else. And then 5A Parkview has been that way now for years. But in 4A and 3A, it's a little bit up in the air, and so like a team like Pottsville this year, can they come out inspired? That's one thing. The Hootens magazine has them picked sixth, but do they put that up? If I'm the coach right now, I'm putting that in the locker
Hey,
room. I'm going to put it all over the locker room.
that's right. Poster board
That's
material
it.
right there. Yeah.
Hey, nobody thinks much of you. But, as we've found out over probably the last 3 years, I think, of course, the 4A has changed where, you had Mayflower in and you had the Bauxites in and CAC and all that. And then last year, it was kind of more of the traditional Ozark, Boonville, or not Boonville. Boonville's coming in next year, by the way. Dardanelle, Lamar, that sort of thing. But it seems like that five is just jumbled. I mean, what was it 2 years ago that if CAC wins, Pottsville wins the conference. If they lose,
Yeah.
Pottsville doesn't make the
We
playoffs.
missed the playoffs
Yeah.
Missed
completely.
the
Yeah.
playoffs completely, and so that was. I feel like you've seen that a few years, and I think this year will be no different.
Yeah.
Well, and I
Well,
think you
with
make a
Dardanelle probably at the top, and then after
Yeah.
that,
but I mean, they're one injury away
true.
from and I think that's one place where Dardanelle has been really blessed the last several years during
Yes,
their run, is they've been fortunate to avoid injury to a key player here and there,
right.
and I think that's the thing about 4A. You can do a lot with one really superstar player, but if that player goes down, your fortunes turn in a big hurry, and you have to have some luck to win a state championship.
Yeah,
You have to have the right matchups. One of our basketball coaches taught me that it's not necessarily your strength against their strength. It's what's the matchup.
Mhm.
right,
Who do you draw in the postseason? How good has Elkins been the last 3 or 4 years,
right.
and how many state championships do they have?
0.
None.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And they've been very good.
Yeah,
Yep.
they've been
Yeah.
outstanding,
Yeah.
sending players to big college, and
Hmm.
and,
Kicking us out of the press box.
they're kicking us out of the press box.
We won't go there.
Yeah, you notice I brought them up as an example.
Yeah, they've been. I actually on the Arkansas Sports Network, I have a top 25 programs coming through right now, and so I've been able to kind of look and see how many wins each of them have. Elkins is one of those. There are 22 programs in the state that have had 45 wins or more since 2020. They're one of those teams. But again, that's why I'm saying I could go back and look, and the 4A and the 3A have been the deepest of those two. When I'm counting, basically I have a formula here where I have wins and I had playoff appearances, conference championships, state runner-up, and state championships, and I put them together and I got a number out of that, and then that's how you make the top 25. Elkins is in the top
I
25,
would
by the way,
imagine,
Yeah.
but
rightfully so.
without a state championship to their name. But as we've said, it seems like every year you can 4A and 3A, you can't necessarily put your finger on who is going to win. Warren, for instance, does not even have a state championship appearance, believe it or not, since 2020.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
That is amazing. What with your formula as far as tracking the wins over several years,
Mhm.
where does Dardanelle finish in that? Because they have
Yeah.
been on such a good run.
Well, remember Dardanelle also went to the 5A
Oh,
West and
that's
they
right. I forgot they.
struggled.
Yeah.
That's right. They got bumped up.
And if it wasn't for that, they would absolutely be in that. But those 2 years, they struggled for those 2 years.
Yeah.
So, anyway, well, guys, I really appreciate y'all coming in and just kind of chopping it up. And we really just wanted to talk a little ball and just kind of get people looking forward to that August 29th date.
Yeah.
Gosh, off the top of my head, I can't even think who they're playing the 29th.
Honestly,
Well,
don't know to be
well,
perfect. It's
well,
here.
let me.
It's here, is it not?
It
They're
is. Let
Yeah.
me look, and I
they're
should
playing
know
another
this.
team, Steve.
They'll play.
That-
They'll play another team. 18 years we've been doing this long.
18 years.
I
Steve.
had a lot more hair back then.
Well, my hair was jet black. I did not have a gray beard, but that's what life will do to you.
Yep.
But I tell you what, it's been a good
Of
life.
course, my phone is being real slow right
Okay,
now.
well.
So, and I just put this out the other day. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick from one other source here. I know they play Charleston. I know they play Clarksville. I can't think of the first game.
Clarksville's always a fun place to go to. And while you're looking up the schedule,
Yeah,
one of our great times with Apache
Heber.
football.
Heber's
Okay.
great. The cake game.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. The cake game. Oh, talking about the Panthers, and one year, and I think it might have been during the COVID year or just after the COVID year, we were playing in Clarksville,
Mhm.
and I actually live in Clarksville, and know Coach Banning, their athletic
Yeah.
director, and have real good relationships with them. Well, as it turned out, they weren't going to have a broadcast crew for one of their games. And that does happen now and again. And they asked Jim and I if they could pick up our broadcast,
Yeah.
so we'd be doing the game for both teams. Well, it just so happened that it was their homecoming weekend. And oh, by the way, the Razorbacks weren't playing that
Yeah.
weekend. So maybe their most famous graduate, Chuck Barrett, who is the voice of the Razorbacks,
Yes.
had said, yeah, he wanted to come. He wanted to come. He wanted to enjoy the reunion and all that good stuff. And they had asked Chuck, and he graciously agreed to come up to the press box.
Hmm.
And he didn't start doing the PA, but about maybe the first series of downs, he took over the PA
Uh-huh.
microphone. No announcements, no nothing. And the first time he called a Pottsville Apache running the ball and a tackle made by Clarksville, you could just see everybody look up
Yeah.
Yeah.
because everybody knows Chuck Barrett's voice.
Well, and then my phone starts blowing up from the Pottsville fans
Yeah.
across. Is that Chuck Barrett?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, it is. But Chuck was gracious. He came over to the press box, spent time with, I think it was Steve, myself. I think Justin was there, but I know Will
Yeah.
was with us.
Hmm.
Will Bodroska was with us too. And so that was a great time.
So, adding to that, we're doing the live stream, and I hear his voice, and I think, well, that's Chuck Barrett. So I just opened the door. We were on the right side of the press box
Hmm.
there, and I opened the door and I look in there, and sure enough, so I just went over there. I was like, "Hey, would you come talk to us at halftime?"
How cool is
And
that?
he did. He come
Yeah.
over there and talked with us. And somewhere on the Russellville Sports Network page is still that interview, which is one of the very first games that we did. So that was
That's
a neat
neat.
thing.
Yeah.
And he was there for homecoming. He also said that there was a funeral, I believe, that he had to
Mhm.
come to,
Yeah.
and it just happened to be on a bye week, I think. So kind of the stars aligned there to be able
Yeah.
to meet him and to be a part of that was a pretty neat deal.
I had an Apache parent tell me a couple of years ago that one of the highlights, their son had played defense and was a defender in that game and had made a tackle. And they said the highlight of their entire son's football career was hearing Chuck Barrett
Yeah.
announce this person had made the tackle.
Yeah. We've had Chad Hooten back when the Hootens actually had the magazine before they sold the magazine. Chad Hooten has come to our press box to visit with us
Yeah.
before and have some really great conversation with Chad Hooten. Also, Keith Jackson, the great Keith
Yeah.
Jackson. When we were at PA, his son, not PA, but
Robinson.
yeah, Plasky
Mhm.
Robertson, Joe T. Robertson. Uh, Keith was gracious to meet with us,
Yeah.
and we had a chance to visit with him, and such a great guy.
So that's another thing that I've learned over this. You get to rub elbows a little bit with those types. And Scotty Thurman
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
is the one. I actually had dinner with Scotty Thurman a few years back, and it's funny. And I don't know if you remember Bill Harshaw.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
remember Bill. Mhm.
Bill is still, he still does the graphics for us,
Mhm.
even now. Um, but anyway, we had done the red white game for their basketball program down there at Parkview, and so this was year two that we were doing it. And Bill starts in. He says, "I want to have dinner with Scotty Thurman." And at first, I'm like, How do I even go about this, man?" I'm like, "He don't have plans for us or whatever." And so he just kept saying it. And finally, I called Scotty. I was like, "Listen." Which I do have Scotty Thurman's phone number right now, which is wild. If I text him, he'll text me back. But I was like, listen, this guy, he's got his heart set on having dinner with you after this is over. And it happened to be, I believe it was his wife's birthday or something, and he still come out
Wow.
and had dinner with us and paid for our dinner that day and all that. It was just a cool thing. And that's cool stuff that happens
Yeah.
throughout, which, that we're all privileged to get a
Mhm.
chance to be a part of and to do. And it's neat. Of course, it's neat when your team wins. I know it's heart wrenching when your team loses, but we're all here
Yeah.
to provide the opportunity that people can watch and be a part of the Apache season, not only for football but for basketball. Last 2 years for me, I've been able to be a part of that, but the basketball season. And last year was such a fun season to be a part of because they played so well, and I know that you got a chance to
Hmm.
call that game-winning shot
Yep.
in the state
They've
championship
been one
or
of
the
my
state
best calls.
playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was an unbelievable thing to be a part of.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, and that was a very good team, but when it came down to it, that was another one of those things when we knew who was going to get the ball for the last shot. They knew who
Right.
was going to get the ball for the last shot, and he still hit it.
Yeah.
He still hit it.
I got to tell you a great story. We actually took that clip from your
Uh huh.
broadcast in Steve's call, and J.C. Jones is one of our church members
Hmm.
here. And so JC came up that next Sunday to take up the offering, and we played that clip. And I said, I want you to notice, of course, everybody's applauding
Yeah.
how great a win that was. And we're all excited as a church. We're here to worship the Lord, but we're very thankful for that young
Sure.
man. And after we showed that clip, I said, so here's the thing. He's taking up offering. I just want you to know JC knows how to get it in the bucket so you can learn something from him. And so we passed the plate,
I love it.
but that was a great memory too. Yeah.
It is. It's awesome to be able to celebrate the kids, and for them to be heroes. You know how it
Hmm.
was when
Yeah.
when you played high school
Mm.
ball. Those kids looked up to the younger kids looked up to you and your teams. And I know there's a lot of kids out there that want to be the J.C. Joneses of the world and all the Court Johnsons of the world and that sort of thing. They want to be that type of kid,
Yeah.
and that's how a tradition is made.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of
And
the big things. I'm sorry.
no, you go right ahead,
One
sir.
of the big things for me that merely makes it big for me to enjoy this is on three separate occasions, and one of them was a game that Jim and I, I'm pretty sure, was doing at Subiaco. I have had parents and grandparents tell me that because of vision problems, two of the players were blind, one was blind and couldn't
Yeah.
travel. All they ever heard of their son or daughter's career was us.
Yeah.
Never saw him play because they were blind. That is the most humbling thing I have
Yeah.
ever been told.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. And I love to hear from people about, grandparents in Texas. And, every time that we're on broadcast, I know that we've had people in other countries watching. I know that we've had people, Texas. And I think that at one point there was somebody in Maine that was watching at one point or another. I mean, that's just the
Yeah.
power of the
Yeah.
internet and what it brings to you, but it's neat.
Yeah. The military families.
Yes.
We've had several military families. Dads or moms would be deployed, and they would get to pick the game up because of via live stream or radio
Mm-hmm.
broadcast. So those, what you do, Brad, is very special, and
Yeah.
it does make a difference. And the Arkansas Sports Network is a pretty special place to be a part of on
Yeah.
Friday nights.
Yeah, it definitely is. And we couldn't have done it without Pottsville. It
Mm.
started right here at Pottsville, and it continues with Pottsville, and it continues with the sponsors that are a part of our broadcast, which we will recognize those here at the end of our broadcast. It can't happen without those
Yeah.
guys. And Pottsville has been so loyal. I mean, Tyson, I don't want to go into too many because I'll miss one, but Tyson Foods has been with us for the distance that, I
Hmm.
mean, from the time that we started. And, Metcalf Trucking jumped in when Heirloom Legal had jumped off, and just different things like that to be able to help us to continue to do it because it really does take an army to make all this
It
happen.
does. It
So,
does. Yeah. Hey, listen, I was watching you set all this stuff up, and it looks like it takes an army. And Brad spent a lot of time doing this. So, Brad,
yeah.
thank you for the opportunity to share today.
Yeah, well, this has been good. It's been a really good conversation here, and we just want to say thank you to those that are watching Pottsville Apache Athletics, and we hope that you're looking forward to the football, not only football but basketball as well. And I mean, we always end up getting a baseball game or two
Yeah.
in before it's all said and done, and so we just appreciate the fans and those that make this a part. Obviously, the sponsors as well that help us to do this because we can't do it every Friday night, and then basketball every Tuesday and Friday if it isn't for you guys. So we do appreciate everybody that pitches in and helps.
You bet.
It's a
Apache pride, Apache awesome.
it's a real blessing to be able to do this. Thank
Yeah.
you.
All right. Well, we would just want to say again, thank you to everybody that watched. Again, we just wanted to put this out here. Hopefully, you'll be excited about Apache sports coming up. Again, a new season coming up here very shortly. I mean, we're less now than 25 days, I believe, from kickoff, and those it'll come very, very quickly. You know that.
It will. It sure will.
And we're looking forward to it. And it is Heber Springs on the 29th, and then I believe a trip to Charleston, and then Clarksville comes here, and then there's a bye week after that, and then it's conference season all the way through.
Yeah. Charleston is another place we were talking about when the Apache football starting to take off, and you were talking about that game that we ended up losing 14-7, but Charleston had one of the best teams in the state. And I remember after that game, Charleston had a fullback who I think went on to play college football, and he was something special. And his dad came over to us after the game and said, "You guys hit like no other team we've ever played." He said, "My son told me that you guys would hit him and stood him up." He said, "No one has ever done that to him."
Yeah.
So that, little things like that you remember over the years.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely a pride that is taken. I mean, even me as somebody who coaches Pee Wee, I know that there's a lot of pride even in the Pee Wee program about being Apaches. In fact, I'll tell you this: our little baseball team last year we were called the Jaguars, and I said, "Hey, you want to be the Jaguars or the Apaches?" And it was a no doubt, no brainer. We were the Apaches this year, and so
that's good.
that I think that it's a neat thing, and
that's good.
it's good to be a part of. But anyway, we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you being a part. We hope you'll share this out with your friends. Again, get excited about Apache sports coming up this year. It's going to be a good time at John Needham Stadium, and we're hoping to see these Apaches make it through to the playoffs, and then it'll be November before we know it. The weather will be getting cool, and we'll be right in the basketball gym.
Yeah.
So
hope we're still there.
All right. Well, again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bringing you Pottsville Apache sports all season long. Fleet Tire, Point S Tire and Auto Service, Premier Facilities Group, E&F Roofing, The Granite Shop, Smooth Running, Heating and Air, and Tyler Riley of River Valley Realty. Also, Metcalf Trucking and Tyson Foods. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying this broadcast.